So where are you today? Are you sat there behind your laptop? Because I'm going to tell you right now, if you want to be a property developer, you cannot be a property developer from behind a laptop. My name is Ritchie Clapson, and you're watching The Open Door Show. So on today's show, I'm going to be talking about why, even though right now you are, if you want to be a property developer, you can't do it from where you're sat. Does it make sense? Hopefully it will by the time we finish today's show. Now, I know a lot of people want to get into property development, but I'm going to tell you there's a few key things that I'm going to read out and make sure that you understand. So as always, I often say, grab a piece of paper and a pen, write some of these down. You're going to want to refer back to these. So the first thing, and the most important thing you need to understand about property development, and maybe you're an existing developer out there and you're trying to give it a go, and maybe you've not been perhaps that successful, or maybe you're just thinking about getting into property development. So wherever you are, this is obviously for you. So let me have a think about it. The most important thing, well, this business is a people business. You've got to go and talk to people. A people business you can't do from where you're sat. And I know we're so used to this virtual technology, and we can talk to people and communicate with people. But you might have watched some of our other shows here on Open Door. We've been talking in the past about body language, and actually how much body language is about your communication and how we get on. And I mean, you know yourself, don't you, when you actually meet people and see people and you see how they react. You know, if you were just looking at my head from here, you'd get nothing. But you get a bit more communication from me. And imagine if we were in a room together, how much communication we'd get. And people deal with people. And it's the same in any business out there, which that means you've got to get out and see people. That's so fundamentally important. There is a bunch of skills that you need, because what skills perhaps do you have at the moment? Let me ask you these and see if you've got them. Write these down and give me a tick next to them if you've got them. And if you haven't got them, give us a cross and maybe rate yourself 1 to 10 how good you are with those skills. Perhaps 1 being poor, 10 being pretty good. So in terms of those skills, what about management skills? Have you got any of those? Write that down. Number 1, management skills. Rate yourself out of 10. So management skills, the ability to manage things, manage processes, maybe manage people as we're talking about there. Manage yourself, manage your time. Are you a manager? Are you a middle manager? Are you a senior manager? Are you an entrepreneur? Do you run your own business in a completely different sector? Have you got any management skills? Rate yourself 1 out of 10. What about organizational skills? The ability to organize things. I mean, I guess you're fairly organized because you've managed to turn up today and listen to this show. But, you know, did you get dressed this morning? Did you make your bed? Did you get places on time? Or are you one of those people who's a bit scatterplace all over the place? Well, rate yourself. What are your organizational skills? They need to be pretty good to be a property developer. Of course, you can improve that. There's loads of ways you can improve your organizational skills. Okay, number 3, decision-making skills. Well, again, you've decided to be here. You've decided to listen. I'm assuming you're still listening. You haven't turned the show off. But what are your decision-making skills? You know, sometimes you see that. Perhaps you've been in organizations. Perhaps you've had business partners. Maybe it's been you occasionally in the past where no one wants to make a decision. Oh, not sure. Maybe. Let me have a little bit more time to think about it. Just make a decision. Get on with it. The great CEOs, the great managing directors of this world will make decisions. And, you know, if they're wrong, well, okay. So what? We've made a decision. We've moved on. We just reverse back a little bit and go in a different direction. So what's your decision-making skills like? Rate yourself out of 10. And then finally, your people skills. Your ability to communicate. What do you like at work? What do you like in your business? What do you like in your family? What do you like with your friends? Now, it doesn't mean you've got to be the center of attention. It doesn't mean to say you're the sort of person that wants to sit and do this type of thing on a show and talk to cameras. No, not at all. It doesn't mean to say you've got to stand up in front of a room and present to a big audience. Not at all. By the way, that's probably the biggest fear in the world apart from spiders. And of course, if you're scared of spiders and you're speaking on a public stage and a spider comes across, I mean, that's a double whammy. You don't even want to imagine that type of stuff. So your skills, I'm talking about people skills, just that ability to communicate. You know, to listen and to talk in the right proportion. You know, can you take in what people say? Can you communicate back with them? And even if you're that quiet person that's considered and wants to take time just to think about it, but you do make a decision and you are able to communicate what you think. You know, that's people skills. Rate yourself 1 out of 10. because that's what you need. And work out where you think you could be improved, because you can improve yourself. That's absolutely important. So you've got those skills. Those are the skills we need. And of course, then you've got to learn. So if you want to be a property developer, you've got to learn. There's a lot of education. Up for education? Hopefully you are. It's a bit like going back to school in some ways. So hopefully you've got this ability to learn. But of course, don't just give it a go. Please, please, please do not do that. People often say to me, Gino, you can Google anything you want in this world. Well, you can. For free information, it's worth the value you pay for it. And of course, how do you know it's right? But even that takes time. And of course, you don't know what's right or wrong. You've got to filter all that stuff out. But let's assume you're going to do some education with someone out there who's going to take you on this journey. The problem is with a lot of that education these days, which is not a problem for the education, but it's a problem of the mindset that we get into. A lot of the education, and including what we do here at propertyCEO, is very much based from where you are now, behind a laptop, behind a screen, looking at a screen. You know, it's the best way really for us as adults to learn and get educated, because we can learn at our own speed, we can turn it off, we can go make a coffee, we can take a phone call, we can start again. You know, working in a classroom once you're older is quite difficult, isn't it? So one of the big challenges certainly that we find here at propertyCEO, and I personally find with my students, is I've almost encouraged them to live behind a laptop, because I teach them in lots of ways behind a laptop. I talk to them every week on a live Q&A behind a laptop. You know, when they first enter our world, they're behind a laptop listening to us on a virtual meeting. So we sort of encourage it. And then, of course, we come into the room, and then people are then thinking about, well, hang on a minute, I've now got to get out. I've got to get outside and go and do things. So this is important. You've got to actually come out. You've got to go and see people. Now, a mindset issue comes in here, a real mindset problem. And that is often more important than the technical stuff, because you'll be thinking, well, do you know, it's a bit difficult, really. I'm going to go out there. Who's going to believe me? Bit of imposter syndrome. Have you ever heard that term? Imposter syndrome is a real difficult one for people to get over and understand. So actually, you do that with a process. And that process to give you that comfort to go out there and use those people skills to get out from behind your laptop is all about branding and credibility. It's interesting, we teach a process called 8 pillars, and pillar number 1 is branding and credibility. And I can tell you almost without doubt, the minute someone enters our world and they go, come on, let's have all that property stuff. Give me the education. Tell me about the permitted development rights. Tell me about how I can get the money. Tell me about how I can get a team. That branding stuff, that can wait. It can't wait. The branding is the first thing that you need. But it's a bit woo-woo, isn't it? No, it's not a bit woo-woo. There's branding and credibility on a website, because what happens? The minute you go out and meet someone, wherever you are, we've all done it, haven't we, networking? You've gone out, you've met someone, they give you a business card. What do you do when you get home? You check out their website, don't you? That's what you do. You just check them out. Imagine someone gives you a business card. You go home, you check out their website, but it doesn't exist. What do you think? Business card in the bin. They can't be bothered, can they? But the minute they've got a website, credible. Yeah, they seem to know what they're talking about. Imagine if you knew how to build a website from day one that gave you credibility as a property developer. And you can. There is a way that you do that, even if you've never done it before. Imagine now going out from behind your laptop. Let's get out in the world. And you give someone a business card and they go and check it out. Imagine how powerful that is. And in fact, actually, it reminds me, just thinking about it, if you know me, I'm used to stories pop on my head, and I'll tell you. I was actually just this week at a training session with some of my students, and I talked to one of my students who's on his second or third project, second I think maybe looking at the third, I think he told me. And I asked him, you know, why does he think he was successful? How has it turned out to be a good journey for him? Because he was talking about opportunities coming to him, deals, development deals coming to him. I said, come on then, tell me, how is that so? What do you think? He said, you know what? He says, it's branding. And he said, I never imagined it. It's the branding and the credibility. And he said, what we've managed to do, even when we've lost opportunities, we have become preferred bidder. Now, preferred bidder is someone that the vendor, the agent or the agent's vendor want to work with, someone who they think is going to follow through. Because agents are concerned with two things. One is price, the other is proceedability. In fact, proceedability is more important than price. No point offering £500,000 for a building and you can't deliver. Better to take an offer for 450 when they can actually proceed and complete. Because the agent only gets paid when someone actually delivers. And so this particular student, he said, what happened? He said, we went out, we gave our business card. And what happened is, of course, that agent checked out our website. They built it in the way that we describe here at propertyCEO. And immediately they said, you're our preferred bidder. You're just the type of developer we want to work with. Imagine their confidence. This student's confidence went right up. First time developer, never done it before. But their website, their branding gave them that ability. I think by their own admission, they'd probably say they're more comfortable sat on the other side of a screen, like many of you. But of course, you don't get business done that way. And they're now opened this other world, opened these doors. And a lot of you, and I know this is going to happen, particularly, or maybe you've even thought about this, that if you're out there and you're thinking about getting into property development, you might be out there in your own world as, a bit of a socializer, someone that's out there networking, but, definitely can't do this world. This is a new world. People are going to catch me out. They're going to think I'm an imposter. I don't feel comfortable. And immediately you close up. I see it so many times. People which, when you talk to them, they're really engaging, and I have a chat with them and say, how are you getting on? How many agents have you met? What about your industry professionals? I haven't managed to get out there yet. Doing most of my stuff behind the laptop on weekends and evenings. It's a little safe environment for me. No, you've got to push beyond that. You've got to get out there. That is so, so important. Is that you? Maybe you could be thinking a little bit like that. And I think the interesting thing here, you might want to write this down. This is important as well. We're looking for deals. Without deals, we're not developers. Now, again, here's another thing. Telling. Every time I do an in-the-room training day, I always say to students, bring deals in. We have a lot of live deal workshop sessions. Bring deals. Now, I would say 80 to 90% of what students bring in is just off of the portals, off of the Rightmoves, the Zooplas, the Estates Gazette. They've just downloaded some details that are out there for everyone to see. And I say, okay, fine, we can have a look at them, we can analyze them. But the reality is, and I tell the students this, it's something you need to know, 50%, write this down, 50% of the deals in this country do not come to the market. 50% of commercial property deals do not come to the market. Where are they? Well, they're done before they come to the market, i.e. the deals are done. What happens there? The commercial agents have got what we would call an old black book, the contacts book. It's going to be your mobile phone these days. What are they going to do? They're going to ring around. They're going to, hey, Ritchie, you're interested in this? I've just got this commercial office building that's come up for sale. Vendor wants to get shot of it quite quick. I know it's in your area. I know it's the sort of thing you're looking for. Do you want to have a little look? Do you imagine that? They make a few calls to people like me. They don't have to draw up all the fancy details. They don't have to go and measure the whole thing. They don't have to do endless viewings. They don't have to. Why would they? So most agents, and agents tell me this, are lazy. Most of my agent friends said, yeah, we're lazy. Wouldn't you be lazy if you could? If you could make a few phone calls and get your business done, maybe over a glass of wine and a beer in the evening, a bit of social, of course you would. People skills, getting out there. So if you want to actually be a property developer and you want to win deals, well, you've got to go out and meet agents. And actually just take an agent out. You just take an agent out for lunch, you get a deal. It's as simple as that. It really, really is. And you speak to commercial agents. I've interviewed commercial agents before. And one of my favourite commercial agents that I've interviewed, she just said, yeah, take me out for lunch, I'll find you a deal. It's not bribery, it's just people work with people. People's skills are so important. So knowing 50% of the deals do not come to the market, unless you're out there talking to people, you would never, ever win one of those deals. And of course, what else do we need to be a successful property developer? Well, we need a design team, don't we? An architect, a structural engineer, a project manager, a cost consultant, a landscape architect, a whole range. Could be a couple of dozen different type of people that you might need at one time or another on your property journey. Well, how do we find those people? We've got to go and see them. We've got to talk to people. Now, they are selling, you're buying. That's important to know that in terms of a mindset shift. But again, Who are they going to work with? Now, I'm a structural engineer by profession. I don't practice anymore, but generally I'd want to work with people that I got on with. I'd want to work with people that I liked. I want to work with people that want to work with people. Don't we all? Because life's far too short. It's not just working, it's enjoying that journey. It's enjoying the journey as much as it is that end destination. So if you work with people you like, well, it makes everything a lot easier. And so I can tell you all of those industry professionals are looking to work with people like you that they like. If you're someone that just emails them, just drops them a quick text or a quick WhatsApp, maybe a phone call, and rarely ever meets them, you're not really going to build those relationships. And they're not really going to be there for you. There for you when things go wrong. And believe me, development goes wrong. Every single development that you'll ever do will have a problem somewhere. It just does. But that's where you need a good team around you to help you. And of course, when we need help, we need people to want to help us. People are only going to help us if we've built a relationship with them. If we've got no relationship, are they going to help us? And I find that in everything in life. Anything I try and do, if I just take my car in for a service, I try and build a relationship. Okay? I just try and build a bit of rapport with the person on the service desk. So actually, when they call me, they remember me. Yeah, you dropped your car off this morning, how are you? They just try and do that little bit to help. I think anything in life, and we've all experienced that, haven't we? We've all been into shops where they want to help us or not help us. And those shops where they try and help us, you're going to go back again. Restaurants, it's exactly the same, isn't it? So this property development business is exactly the same. So one thing I always say is immerse yourself in the industry. Immerse yourself in the industry. That means get out there, be seen, be part of it. Write that down. Immerse yourself in the industry. And when I mean immerse yourself, if I said immerse yourself in water, you're fully in it, aren't you? It's not dipping your toes in, you're in. Right in, over the top. That's what you need to do in this industry. So get out there. Go and socialize. And it's a very friendly business in lots of ways. Be careful, because when there's money around, there's always people that are probably going to do you wrong. But a lot of these people are willing to work with you. So where are they? Where do they hang out? Well, generally, these are going to be industry networking meetings. Now, I'm not talking about your property networking meetings, which a lot of you probably attend, which are great. They're really, really good, but not really where industry people hang out. They might hang out down there, I don't know, the Dog and Duck on a Thursday afternoon. Or there might be a sort of property association that they all kick around in. They might just get together on a regular basis in a hotel. But I can tell you, in your town, in your city, wherever you are, regardless wherever you are across the country, they all meet somewhere, in several places, several times a month. Maybe for breakfast, maybe for lunch, as I say, maybe in the evening. And just by way of example, I'm from the South Coast. And I often used to go and socialise in a street called Oxford Street in Southampton. If anyone lives in Southampton, they'll remember Oxford Street. I think a lot of things are shifted around down there now, but we used to go and sit in Oxford Street in the summer. It was very pleasant. We'd sit in one of the outside bars, outside cafes, sit there with a cold beer or a glass of wine, and the property world would be going by. I'd be sat there. I remember one particular time, I was sat there with my accountant. Ray was there, and a friend of mine, Russell, who was an auctioneer. And then someone else comes by, I'd not met them. Hey, do you know Ritchie? No, I don't. Introduce yourself. You just meet people out in those environments. I mean, that's not tough, is it? Sat there, pavement cafe on a summer's afternoon, evening, maybe sometimes, having a cold beer, getting introduced to people, immersing yourself in the industry. And there are so many events to go to. And if you're going to an organised event, here's a real key bit of advice. Turn up early and leave late. Turn up early, leave late. You probably think, what's he talking about? Look, if you ever go to a meeting, if you're one of the first people there and the hosts are there, and just think about it, who do the hosts know? Who does the speakers know? Probably everyone. It's their event, isn't it? So if you turn up early and you're brand new, you get a bit of a one-to-one with the host. Hi, how are you? Great, nice to see you. Obviously, other scripts are available. You can say what you want. Have a chat to them, get to know them. Hey, you're new. Well, let me introduce you to so-and-so. And stay late, offer to help, tidy up, pick up the chairs. They'll remember you. Turn up early and stay late. And even if you think you can't get there early, I actually spoke to someone once. I remember this particular lady. She said, I can't do networking dues. I said, why? Oh, it's impossible. I said, why? She said, well, my husband works and we've got kids and I work. And she said, the difficulty is I work from home, but she said, do you know how to get the kids tea when they get home from school? And my husband don't get home till about 7 o'clock. And, networking meetings are started by then. I said, yeah, but they haven't finished. She said, but what do you mean they haven't finished? I said, go halfway through. She said, but I missed half of it. I said, you're not really there for the content. You're there to network. And I said, picture this. Have you ever been in a networking do and halfway through, when the main speaker's talking, the door opens? What happens? Everyone looks round. Everyone looks round. And who's just walked in? You have. Give them a little smile. Sorry, I'm late. Don't say sorry, I'm late because of the speed. But you walk in, everyone's remembered you. Sit yourself down, stay late. I said to this lady, you can stay late. I suppose I could. What does everyone happen then? Oh, you're the one that came in late. Yeah, sorry about that. You come in late every month. Yeah, no, I've got my kids. Do you see you could do it? You've got to immerse yourself in this industry. Now, what I would say, if this isn't you, if it really isn't you at all, and I've got a few students and it isn't them, and they say it's not me, I'm a geek. I'm not a geek, far from, but that's what they may say to me. So I'm a bit of a geek. I like doing all the spreadsheet stuff. I'm not really socialising. In fact, I can think of 2 particular students who are exactly that, and they teamed up. Now, I don't really push joint ventures, but in certain circumstances, they can work really well. And these are 2 particular characters. One of them, really outgoing. He's out there. He'd chat to anyone, and he's a really engaging guy. He's not really into the numbers. He's not really into spreadsheets. Sticking behind a computer, getting to do spreadsheets, not really his bag. His business partner, well, it's interesting, his business partner, who I know, and I won't mention their names, his business partner, in fact, actually is a bit of an outgoing guy, but he said, I'm just at a different phase in life. I don't really want to go out there in this new development business that I'm in. He was in a different business before. I just don't want to do that. But he said, I like to do the numbers. I really like numbers and detail and spreadsheets and processes. Marriage made in heaven. The 2 of them have teamed up. One's out there doing the deals, schmoozing, talking to people. The other is back in the office behind the laptop. So if you want to be behind the laptop, well, maybe you can do that. But ultimately, you've got to go out there and build relationships. And 2 stories to finish off on. 2 students of mine who've done exactly that. One of my students, Daryl, and Daryl told me the story about how he did his first deal. Very successfully, 6-figure sum. I think it's just under £180,000 profit out of his first deal. And he was a teacher. Daryl, if you're listening, you know who you are. And Daryl was telling me about his project of how he went out there as a first-time developer and built a relationship with the agent that was selling a particular property. In fact, I remember him bringing the property to the deal to the room. And it didn't quite stack. He couldn't quite get it to work. So he had to offer significantly below the asking price. And he didn't get it. The agent said, no, someone else has bought it. But do you remember I talked about proceedability? You've got to better proceed. You've got to follow through. And of course, that is about relationships and branding and credibility. But what he did, he kept in touch with the agent. And he just was there. And he was ready. He kept those people skills. He kept that communication going. Ultimately, long story short, the project came back to him. He renegotiated and he bought the project and he went on, as I say, to make a significant profit. And in doing so, in fact, he invited me to the opening of that project. I was really privileged to be invited along. It's a real special occasion when you take a student on, you've seen them on a journey, and they invite you to the opening of their projects. If you're a student out there and you've never invited me to your opening, you better start doing it because I like coming. And actually bought me a drink as well. So it's really nice to go to their opening. And of course, there was his agent. His agent is there. He's now built a relationship with the agent, and the agent has bought him his 2nd and his 3rd deal to carry on. And another student, and this is a student of ours called Jo. And Jo was talking to me the other day, and she'd really now mastered this people skills. Not that she didn't have those people skills before, but I would say by her own admission, she was the quieter one. In fact, what she had done was joint ventured with someone on her first project to get her started. I get that. It made sense. And she was a little bit more behind the screen, behind the laptop, and her business partner was a bit more out there. And it worked extremely well. They successfully completed their first project. But they decided to go their separate ways. They'd now had confidence to go and do their own thing. And she is now transformed. And I was speaking to her just the other day, and she was talking about how now she's gone out there and built relationships, and she's got money, private investors coming to her. She's got deals coming to her. She's out there networking. She now runs her own monthly networking meeting. Now, I can tell you, having met her a few years back, that's the last thing I would ever imagine her doing. But she's out there doing it, and I've not been, but the feedback I get is a great evening. She's running her own networking meetings. She's not behind that laptop screen. She's come out and she's immersed herself in the industry. So that is my message to you. You cannot be a property developer from where you're sat right now. Come out, come and join us. Get in the real world, and then you can be a property developer. And as I say, immerse yourself in the industry. Hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully you're going to take that on board, and hopefully you're going to get out there and get stuck in. If you like what we do, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next show.